what I'd like to do is raise the question of translation generally, invite a few people to comment on this issue of translation in the poems of this week, or of generally the poetry of this ilk, this mode. I wonder if Derek and Gabe and Max would take a shot at the general question of translation and its relevance. Derek thinks about this all the time as an artist and practitioner. It's an easy peasy one for you. So let's give Derek the floor first. Sorry, Derek, I sprung it on you, but can you talk generally about translation as a topic and as a mode and its relevance to this kind of poetry?
Sure. Thanks, Al. It's funny, but I kind of think that translation is, it's what we all do. It's what we're doing constantly in terms of poetry, not specifically conceptual writing or contemporary writing, but all poets are trying to look to move information from one form to another, right? They're always looking to move it from thought to word, or from action to, a sentence. And it's the pieces that get lost, and it's the excitement in what's the crumbs that fall off the sandwich along the way as you're trying to make this. And that's the thing that really excites me. The thing about translation to me in terms of conceptualism or in terms of a contemporary practice is that it introduces, or it reintroduces forms that, that poets have been working on for a very long time, that, in terms of homophonic translation or translation by form, these go back, Zukofsky's doing this. This is not particularly new, but what conceptualism does is it takes a particular set of tools and says, let's focus on those ones for a while. Yeah. And translation is definitely one of them. And that's actually one of the things that I think makes conceptualism to me so interesting, is that it is very much engaged in an international scope. Right. There are writers around the world working in other languages, and the language barriers start to fall away really quick.
Yeah. So thank you, Derek. We're going to turn to Gabe and then Max on this general question of translation. But what Derek has said, I'm sorry to simplify it or reduce it, but in effect, we shouldn't think of translation only as moving from one language to a next, done by a professional translator who knows the first language well and the second language well and moves it over for the purposes of elucidation. That translation is a fundamental tool. Yeah. Now, it is also true, because of its inherent internationalism, translation also is progressive. It is also border challenging. So you get back to the politics of translation by generalizing first. Derek, that was really great. Of course, you think about this all the time. Gabe, you think about translation all the time, and your recent poetry is dealing with it constantly.
Yeah, actually, I mean, that is true, but I feel like my answer is going to go pretty far afield from that. I was going to say that in A Midsummer Night's Dream, when Bottom becomes a donkey, Quinn says to him, "Bless thee, thou art translated." And, that's a line that a lot of people love. And it's partly because the word translated there doesn't mean like, now you're in Spanish, my friend, but it means something like, there's something that's still you. It's still you, I think it is, at least, but now you're appearing in this different form. You're appearing in a new way. You're transformed, you're reborn. And I think I really agree with what Derek has said so far. And I would add also maybe a historical note that coming from the language poets on, there's a lot of history of experimental translation by amateur translation that's happening, where people are kind of, taking a dictionary and just doing what they can do with it, even if they don't really understand the language. And I think that kind of amateur translation, let me just see what I can do with the language, is really the same gesture as some of the more formal translations that we get in something like Via or Pledge, the homophonic translation, or something like that. So.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Gabe. And Max, a third person on this larger question of translation, and then we'll turn to Allie, Lily, and Jess to see what it means for a flarfist to hear a translation. So Max?
I think what's particularly provocative about the question of translation in the context of this week, and I think this is going to be a version of what Derek said, is that you see these international communities of poets less interested in trying to convey something about content in their own language, and instead sharing these tools that are able to circulate regardless of language. Since, with the conceptual poets and the unoriginal poets here, we see them beginning from this conceptual starting point, from this place of constraint or a game or some sort of challenge that they set for themselves. And in fact, you can do that in any language. So the what happens here with translation is less that you're is language becomes less of a constraint, where you're not trying to find the right words, but rather every language that you apply these tools to reveals something new about that language and also the tool that you're using in that case.
Yeah, absolutely.